most of us are familiar with the 4-6-8 tritype because it's hyper-reactive. They're hard to miss. We know they're present. We know when a 4-6-8 is in our lives because they bring with them intensity and a need to call off the truth, even if they do it with humor. This is the canary in the coal mine individual that's letting us know what is vulnerable, what is off, what is inconsistent and untrue, or at least not what it appears to be. This is the individual that says the emperor has no clothes. They feel compelled to identify what is insincere. They kind of have a meter of awareness. They're very intuitive, inquisitive, and protective. It's a quite dynamic type in that way. They want to be original. They want certainty. And they're very straightforward. They'll say what other people keep to themselves. They can't help but voice whatever they think or feel. It's kind of emotions with truth telling. And if you think about it, they are the really kind of the self-pres version of each center. So they feel things strongly and they have an emotional reaction, and it isn't always just about heart feelings. It's very quick to action. And so fast that the rest of us might have missed the steps in between, because this type is naturally tracking so many details having to do with inconsistencies and calling off these hidden agendas, these misrepresentations, or expressions that are insincere. This person has a sincerity meter, and they know when someone is being authentic and connected to themselves. Now, the 4-7-8 is more individualistic and creative, but the 4-6-8 is more dutiful and feels this sense of responsibility to themselves and others. It's the most intense type on the Enneagram. Their life mission is to identify what is insincere and not what it appears to be, and alert others of the potential hazard. A true whistleblower, this tritype is happiest when they can protect others from being taken advantage of and misled. So it's a very creative individual that still feels compelled to focus on what they perceive is the truth of any given situation. The problem is that many people, and probably most people, do not want to be alerted at that level. That it feels like too much, and it can start to sound like the boy who cried wolf. But this type is noticing all those nuances, and we need the 4-6-8 to protect us from, again, tyranny, injustice, ways in which others will start to take control. So they're sensitive to those manipulations more than any other type. And they will blow the whistle, whereas other types might feel these things, but not want to be the one saying it. They're often, the true whistleblower in the most extreme is usually the 6. But even if this 8 is in charge, the 8 will want to kind of rip off the mask and expose falseness, and the 6 and 4 do it in their way as well. So they can be so focused on what is missing. It's also interesting, this type is the most sensitive to what's missing, not just what's insincere. So they are, in many ways, 4-ish, even if they're an 8 or a 6, because they notice what's left out. That they can be overly distressed and naming what's missing to the point of being uncomfortable or being experienced as uncomfortable by others that want a more pleasing, let it go view of reality. They also call off what's threatening. They want to know what others are doing and why they're doing it and whether it's a potential threat. It's also a very loyal person, and when 4 and 6 come together, you get an interesting relationship to loyalty. You get someone who wants to be an individual but a part of and belong to others. And these emotional truths can be so critical to the 4-6-8 that it can feel tyrannical to those that have a different viewpoint. It's intense. It's not like, oh, I think you might want to be aware that this could happen. It's like, ding, 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 this is going to happen, this is going to happen. So it can raise the alarm system in others in a way in which feels uncomfortable. But if we look back at whatever the 4-6-8 has identified, it's pretty accurate most of the time. It's whether or not it needed that level of intensity. And that's what is the growing edge for the 4-6-8. Because as a result of this blind spot, they don't see their impact on others. And they can miss what's truly important of those alarming situations. That you have to put them in a hierarchy. And 4-6-8s that are unaware don't put them in a hierarchy. Every potential threat is communicated with the same velocity, the same intensity, which is high. So what hurts them is that in missing their impact on others, they don't realize why people then either move away from them or want them to stop or stop listening. And it's really quite tragic because if you think about it, this is the person who's really seeing what can go wrong. This is the type in each center that's calling off a truth. Emotional truth for 4, mental manipulation truth of the 6, and kind of the motivation from 8. Anything you'd say to that?
No, I think that's pretty accurate. I would just add that
it's a fierce type.
I think the type, speaking from my own personal experience as this tri-type, I have often felt a lot of responsibility to call off what I see to friends or to loved ones when they didn't see it, because it was so obvious to me, and that's been a very heavy burden sometimes. And then I really had to learn that, okay, I call it off, and then it's their job to either heed that message or that warning or to suffer the consequences. And so much of the time, even growing up with my group of friends, I would say, well, if we don't deal with this, this is going to happen. And then sure enough, nobody would pay attention, and then 6 months later it would happen. So there's that weird feeling of kind of seeing those problems way out on the horizon.
And feeling that sense of responsibility.
Yeah, it's like a sense of responsibility to say, there's a warship on the horizon, and everybody says, oh, I don't see it.
And then let me add that later when it happens, no one says, because it's so early in the vision of the 4-6-8, that no one says, oh, David, remember when you said that? Or, oh, 4-6-8, you alerted us to this 6 months ago. I'm sorry that we didn't pay attention to you. It doesn't happen because it's so far in advance of what others are tracking. This is the person that can see the slightest bend of the leaf and can follow a trail that others wouldn't necessarily either notice or spend time doing. And we need this type because they're true skeptics. They're also very skeptical and cynical in a way because they have 6 and 8 coming together, and then the 4 is depending on their intuition, so it amplifies the cynical nature. So we can get someone a little more pessimistic, but that would stand to reason if your focus of attention is on what's off.
If the 8 was in the